Okay, recently I've just been really anxious about the election and politics in the US. I feel like I spend hours a day reading the news and then also listening to podcasts analyzing the news, and I just have this anxiety that's just constantly living in me when I think about the future and the current state and all the things I need to get done related to school. I don't know, I've just been really anxious recently. But anyway, this past weekend was fall break. We had a 4-day weekend on Monday and Tuesday, and I didn't really have much to do or anywhere to go, and so I don't know, I decided I kind of wanted to try something new and try something that really scared me, and so I decided to phone bank. If you don't know what phone banking is, it's basically where you call people and ask them to vote or try to convince them to vote for a certain candidate. And it was part of Beto O'Rourke's campaign called the Million Voter Registration Drive. It was the day before early elections opened in Texas, which is the state that I'm from. And the goal was to call 1 million people and tell them to make a plan for vote and vote for Democrat candidates. And I've never phone banked before, and just the thought of calling strangers made me really anxious. I always rehearse what I'm gonna say before I call people. Even just calling customer support or calling the bank, those things terrify me, and yeah, but I don't know, I decided it would be a good learning exercise. I guess the question is so why did I want to phone bank in the first place? Why do I want to, given that I have so much anxiety around phone calling, why do I want to call up random strangers from Texas and tell them to vote for Democrats? I think there are two reasons. One is that I was really anxious about the election and politics recently, and I think when you phone bank or when you do something that's active, it takes you from passively worrying about things and makes you feel you have a part to play in the American democratic system. I don't know, I just thought it would be a tangible way that I could make a difference, and I personally really would love if Texas flipped blue one of these years. Maybe this year, who knows. And the second reason is that I'm a pretty socially anxious person, and I thought this would be a good challenge for myself to tackle those anxieties one at a time. If I phone banked and they didn't end up being as scary as I thought, then maybe other things won't be as scary as I think they are. Yeah, I just think as a good rule of thumb, when something scares the crap out of me, I think it's a good reason to investigate why. So how did the experience go? So in the morning on Monday, I logged onto a Zoom call with Beto and Bernie Sanders and many other volunteers, and they basically introduced and welcomed people and kind of talked about the importance of democracy as an action, and it required people to go out and learn and to talk to others. And I was really struck by one thing that Bernie Sanders said, which was when he first ran for mayor of Burlington, he was really struck by how willing some people were to talk about the issues when he engaged with them directly. People are more complicated than just I'm a staunch Republican or a staunch Democrat. People have their own set of issues that they care about, and so when you talk to them and engage with things they really care about, people are more willing to listen than you expect. So they gave a little intro, and then after that, another volunteer went over a little tutorial of how the phone banking system worked and how you answer calls and work with the interface, and then we were off to the races. And I set a goal for myself to call 10 people, which is really big for me. Even though the grand scheme of things, 10 is not super big, 10 is huge for me personally. So that's the goal that I set out for myself, and I expected most of my calls to just be automatic hang-ups or hi, I'm a volunteer and I'm phone banking, and then people would just immediately hang up. But or I was expecting voters who would be really aggressive, being no, fuck you, I'm voting for Trump. So yeah, but I ended up being really surprised. I mean, I did get automatic hang-ups and people who were oh, you have the wrong number, and then just would hang up. But I also talked to this couple that had already like sent in their mail-in ballots, and I also talked to this woman who was like so excited to vote Democrat and was like driving people to the polls and like super invigorated and was like getting all her family members to vote. And I don't know, that just really inspired me that people like care so much and aren't like jaded, like, oh, the government does nothing for me, so I don't want to participate. So I don't know, it was just like it was really good seeing the optimism in other people as well. Yeah, and then I also talked to people who were like, oh, I'm voting for Trump, and I was like, okay, thank you for your time, and I would just hang up. So you got a whole range of people, but I think overall the experience was really positive. I mean, I was like shaking by the end because I was like so overwhelmed with anxiety, but it was also really positive because I came away with the sense that I felt like I did something important and I like was able to make a difference in some like small way. And I don't know, by the end I had this like mix of anxiety and adrenaline, and in the end I'm like pretty glad I did it. I proved to myself that I could phone bank and could talk to strangers, and that politics doesn't have to be terrible. Yeah, and by the end of the day, the goal was to call 1 million voters in Texas, and in the end, people called like 2.9 million voters in Texas, which is like 1/6 of all eligible voters in Texas, so that's pretty huge. So in the end, I'm pretty glad I was able to get over like some personal anxiety around calling people and a larger political anxiety that's kind of been like seeping into my daily life and take action. So it was scary, but it was pretty rewarding, and I think whenever I think about like grassroots activism or politics, I'm just always struck by the like relentless optimism of people who are like volunteers or running for office. As someone who like kind of teeters on the edge of like cynicism and very, very cautious optimism, it was really incredible to see how many people like believed in their own power to shape the future that they lived in through democratic processes. And yeah, so I guess the moral of the story, will I phone bank again? Possibly, but more importantly, I was able to challenge my anxiety directly and learn something about like taking action. So I think that's just the moral of the story. That was my experience phone banking. I definitely encourage you, if you are a voter in the US, to vote at the minimum, and also think about phone banking, or also think about like reading up on how you can participate more, because I think it's really important. Yeah, so that's my little spiel and my experience phone banking. Hopefully this like inspires you to try something, whether you agree with me or not, just inspires you to like challenge something that you are really anxious about or really afraid to do. So yes, thank you for watching.